Goed dat je luistert naar een nieuwe aflevering van Paul de Vries vanuit de podcaststudio in Ede met de missie de online automotive beter te maken. Dit doet Paul met de volgende partners met dezelfde missie: Marktplaats, Coldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Vindio, Used Car Controller en tweedehands.be.
Thank you all for coming. My name is George Nenni. Just some background on myself. Been in the car business since 1993. I started in the car business. Two of my older brothers, I'm the youngest of 7 children. Two of my older brothers started a technology startup in the automotive business in '89. I joined in '93. That business was called Dealer Specialties. You probably don't know of them here, but in the United States, they are the largest provider of photography and data collection to be able to populate websites, right? To be able to collect inventory and syndicate that inventory. I started consulting 4 years ago or so, and really love the interaction I have with dealers. We've got a couple books out, one on Google My Business, one on general digital marketing. I've got some copies to give away if we get some really good perplexing questions, or if anybody can stump me maybe on Google My Business. No, I'm kidding. Any questions we would welcome. We also have a Chrome extension called GMB Spy. I don't know, any users of Chrome extensions? You guys like Chrome extensions? Very helpful for SEO. Some really good extensions out there. And we just, 2 days ago, just hit 10,000 users. And it's only a little over a year old. Anyway, so love the car business, and so thankful to Paul for having me here. We have a lot of content, and so, from a competitive perspective in the United States, Google My Business is allowing dealers to outperform their competitors, doing fairly easy things, but you just have to know, what are the influencers in the search rank and how you all can win. If your competitors begin doing some of the things that I show you in this presentation, they will outrank you literally overnight or within a couple weeks in Google search. And so some of the factors that we'll outline can have almost immediate effect in terms of your search ranking. So here's the challenge, and most of us already know this. So 100% of the time that you search for a business or a product or a service in Google, Google returns either one Google My Business listing or the map pack, right? The three listings, or maybe all the map listings, right? And so that's very compelling, right? That change has really ramped up over the last few years, and this change has really caused, I think, a lot of SEO companies, search engine optimization companies, to realize that today SEO is Google My Business. If you are paying monthly for SEO services and your provider is not mentioning Google My Business and they're not working on your account, then they should be, right? That would not be a good thing. Dealers often ignore their Google My Business listings. I've got lots of examples. I gave a similar presentation at Digital Dealer in the States a few months ago, and literally redid all of the slides with examples from Holland, examples from Belgium and Germany and England, just to be able to show, in some cases, show myself that the same concepts apply in both areas, but also to make sure that all the things that I show you are available in Europe as well as being available in the United States. Dealers that build multiple Google My Business listings, as I said, will outperform dealers who don't. If you've been told that all you need is one Google My Business listing, and you sell cars and you have service and you have a body shop, then that's wrong information. There is no way to fully optimize one single listing across all those business categories, right? So we were having lunch with a gentleman in the group talking about body shop and service and parts. I would argue that dealerships should look at every profit center in the dealership and try to determine if they could build a Google My Business listing, optimize it for those products and services, and then begin winning on that. And we'll show you all those pieces. So, and I'll say this over and over in the presentation, true winning on Google My Business is not pulling up for your name. Google takes care of that for you automatically. It's winning on non-branded category search. Google My Business calls it discovery search also. So that's really where you should measure if you're winning or not. So we've talked about some of these pieces. Why is Google My Business so important? Well, Google is the dominant internet listing directory in the United States and also in Europe. As we said, 100% of the time that anyone searches for your dealership name, your Google My Business page shows up. And if you looked at dealerships, all across the world, and we look at, I'll talk about organic search ranking. So organic search, those are your free Google and Bing listings that you get, right? So the most popular keyword for a dealer's website is what? What's the most popular keyword in Google that brings people to your site? Anybody? Your dealership name, exactly, right? Your dealership name is probably 60% of all the organic search clicks to your website. So if 100% of the time that you Google your dealership name, your listing pulls up, well then suddenly reviews, how important are reviews, right? We know that when we take a dealer from 3.8 stars to 4.5 stars, their number of clicks on this link, the website link, increases. How do we know that? We tag that link. We can track the percentage of your organic search traffic that clicks on that link versus not. And when you raise your review score, more people click on that link. You win that click. And that's really a lot about what we're going to talk about. And again, we're going to talk a lot, about non-branded category search, which is primarily the goal for success. It's also very high quality traffic, right? People that click on this button, they stay on your site longer. They look at more pages. They convert at a higher rate than your normal organic search traffic, right? So we want as much of this as we can. So take control of your Google My Business pages, feed them content, and then monitor the performance. And you'll be able to see, I'm not only going to show you how to win on Google My Business, but I'll show you how to measure if you're winning, right? So if all these things, George is telling me, how will I be able to know if they're working for me? The reporting side of Google My Business is called Insights. Will give you all those answers. And as we said, winning is not about branded search. It's about winning the local pack. Everyone familiar with when I say local pack? That's the 3 search results that pull up when Google's not sure which business should win. If I search for my dealer name, there's no local pack, just me. But if I search for a category, used cars Gent, brake repair near me, then I'm going to get a local pack, right? And my goal as a dealership is to win that local pack or at least show up in those 3 listings. If I don't, maybe I'm number 4. Well, here's, you got to click on View All to go see number 4, and consumers are in a hurry, they're lazy. Winning the local pack is the primary goal. Google's algorithm decides who wins the local pack, right? So my obsession is I have to understand why some dealers appear before other dealers in the search rankings. So let's talk about that algorithm. It's based on 3 things. Proximity. Is the business close to the person who's searching? Prominence, so your Google reviews, really. How many reviews do you have and what is your star rating? If your competitor has more reviews and a higher star rating, everything else equal, they win. And then relevance. We'll talk a lot about relevance today. So relevance says, does this business sell products that my searcher was looking for? And that's really, this relevance piece is where you can really influence how you rank in the Google search rankings. So here's some good news. You only have to worry about 2 of those 3 because you can't game your proximity. You can't fake Google out and say, I'm in Antwerpen, but I want to rank number 1 for used cars in San Francisco. It's a silly example, but you can't spoof your proximity, right? So we really focus on prominence and relevance. In general, as I said, people that have more reviews and a higher rating, in general, will always rank higher. As I said before, winning the local pack is really what we're talking about. So relevance, okay, so we talked about prominence. Prominence is all about reviews. Relevance is, have I done a good job of telling Google what business I'm in? Has anyone ever heard of Google's knowledge graph? Google's knowledge graph. So Google's knowledge graph is everything that Google knows about your business. Some of that information they may stumble upon. They may see from your website link on your business. They get information from your reviews, from your categories, different content you put in your Google My Business. Our job as dealers is to make sure that Google's knowledge graph knows exactly what businesses we're in, right? And there you can see the difference between sales and service and body shop. Google needs to have a different knowledge graph for each of those profit centers so I can fully win for those category searches. Making sense? Good? My pace good? Sure. Yes. All right. Left arm. I have to switch hands. Thank you. This way. I think I'm upside down. Thank you. I'm like, question about Google's knowledge graph?
I was going to ask something about prominence and how, winning the local pack. So 2 of the 3 can be influenced, right?
Yes.
I did encounter with our business a year back how I feel like the rating is pretty, it can be gamed. You can change it, influence it. And so we had a review where somebody made a review. He wasn't known by us. He never visited us. We think it was somebody else, like a 1-star review. We have 4.6, by the way. With 90
good for
reviews,
you.
So,
good for you.
We're not doing bad, but it's annoying that there's a 1-star.
Yes.
So we asked Google, hey, we don't know who this person is. We don't think he's ever visited our company.
Mm-hmm.
Could you remove this star? Because, it's not representative of our service. And they basically said, tough luck,
Yes.
You can't do anything about it. So in the other way, I thought, well, what stops me from creating 100 fake accounts and making, give them a profile picture, giving 4 or 5-star reviews on my company, or giving bad reviews on a competitor company in my area. If they don't remove a bad review that I think isn't correct, will they remove the good ones, the fake ones that I give myself?
Yeah. So I think the fake review. I mean, you could do that. I mean, I think Google will monitor someone who's creating individual links and only giving 1 review to 1 business with a 5-star rating. I mean, that just looks like spam. So I would be worried about that. And if it ever got tied back to your dealership. So misbehavior around Google My Businesses on the business's part causes suspensions, usually 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, you can't be found on the internet. And so it's usually for those, it's good reason. So getting rid of negative reviews. If someone just leaves a negative review and doesn't have a name, it is tough, and Google's not going to remove that. If you do get a review and it talks about a business that's not your business, you can flag that and say, look, this is not my business. Or if it has hate speech or profanity, you can flag those, and Google will get rid of those 12 to 36 hours later. But if it's just a bad review, the very best thing you can do is respond to it. If they don't put a comment, say, gosh, we're so sorry, we'd love to help you. Give us your name, or here's my phone number. You can message me offline. And then you just want to push it down, right? You just want to add new positive reviews, right? So the very best thing you can do with a 1-star review is go get 4 or 5-star reviews, right? And push those down. And then when you get reviews that are very good and you respond to those, this is where the gaming is. I mean, yes, the more likes those reviews get, the more relevant that review. So you can sort of like a review up to the top. Again, just to make sure that the worst case scenario is you get a 1-star review and 4 people like the review. So now that thing starts to become alive and you can't get rid of it, right? So don't touch it, move it down, and if it's a negative review that you respond to, and someone else may respond to it, like your response, and then again, don't touch it, just push it down, because you're going to have negative reviews. It's just a reality of it, And I think consumers know that every business has trouble. They want to do business with the businesses that have problems and solve those problems quickly, versus not having problems at all. So prominence for the most part. Now, you'll have examples where it'll be strange, like, I don't know why this business is outranking this other business. I've got more reviews, I've got a higher star rating, so you will see some of those. And the relevance piece, this relevance piece really factors in, because Google's knowledge graph may feel like they're more relevant. But remember, Google's assignment is to make sure they return the most relevant search results for the searcher, right? And so we need to make sure that again, they know about what we do. And how do you do that? Categories we'll talk about, choosing the right categories. And I've got examples of wrong categories out there, so there's a lot. I think there's a lot of opportunity. As I put together these examples, it occurred to me to say it felt like that not that many people were paying attention to Google My Business, it was very difficult for me to find listings, and I didn't spend days, but it was hard to find people that were really paying attention, doing Google posts, having lots of categories, having the right categories, having multiple photos, or really trying to drive reviews. And so I think because of that, the opportunities are huge. Most people are not going to do anything from this information or from things they learn. And so your execution of these ideas really separates you. So here it is. This third bullet here, reviews that include keywords or any keywords that have prominence, positive messaging in those. That is one of the very best ways that you can influence your ranking. And why do I say that? Well, because the data says that, right? When I searched for best brake service near London, and I did all these, by the way, on all the local Google searches, we can see that the top scoring locations had reviews with brake pads, brake service, brake repair in the review, and Google bolded those keywords. So what does that tell us? Google is indexing the keywords in our reviews. Someone left this dealership a review and said, use fixture for my last couple, servicing a brake pad. Someone else had some other verbiage in there. They had no idea when they left that review, they would actually cause Google to rank this business potentially higher. If you add the word best, Google will pull out words of praise. We love these guys. They're the best. Those sort of things, right? So you can, I think a good exercise for you as you're building your Google My Business and you're trying to measure if you're moving the needle is to do a lot of searches. I do a lot of searches, non-branded category searches, and then I'll add the word best, those kind of things, and just kind of see who's sorting out and where folks rank. And some of this may be too basic when we talk about claiming ownership. I assume most people have claimed their Google My Business listings or are getting into the back end of it. If you haven't, we'll talk about what this looks like. You should take ownership of all your Google My Business properties, and we'll show you how to look for ones you may not know exist. You may have, I'm calling them phantom listings or ghosted listings. So sometimes the manufacturer, in the United States, Ford has done this, Toyota has done this, where they do a deal with Google and they do a mass upload of all their business locations to Google, and they create duplicate Google My Business listings for parts and service, and they make a big mess. They choose the wrong categories. They really, and so I think it's important to inspect, do I have one listing? Are there multiple listings? And then kind of figure out where you are, and then get a strategy to say, I want to have one for service. I want to have a separate one for parts, body shop, and so on. If you want to find your phantom listings, you just pull up Google Maps and you zoom, hit the plus sign, zoom as close as you can, and then just look around and just look for any other listings, right? If you don't see them, then they're not there, right? Ownership. So this is the screen where you can look at the people that log in. And this conversation is not just about Google My Business, Google Analytics, Google My Business, Google Ads, Bing's backend. You need to make sure that the dealership is the admin over all those Google properties, right? If not, you may have an old agency or a former employee who's the admin of your Google My Business. Now you have to get that back from them. Or maybe they're the admin of your Google Analytics and they want to hold that hostage, right? So it's important to make sure that at the senior leadership level, at the dealership owner level, that you own the admin level for all these different systems. And then, remove old contacts, of course, if they're not there. I get this question quite often. Hey, George, I created another service, Google My Business, like you told me, but it never pulls up. It never shows up. I can't even find it unless I zoom on the maps to see it, right? It's being ghosted because Google says, look, if you don't have 20 photos or 20 reviews, you're not going to show up very often or ever, right? So when you get these new listings, you can't just leave them go. You have to start adding content. And the two biggest triggers are owner photos. Now, there's two kinds of photos. There's owner photos and customer photos. Owner photos, through studies from SEO companies, is absolutely an influencer. We see it as well. Once we have an account get over 20 photos, their views of their page, the actions, right, the website directions, the click-to-calls, all those numbers start climbing up, right? You're showing up more often. And the goal should be over 100 owner photos. SearchEngineLand.com is a big SEO website, magazine. They did a study in January of 2020 and showed that when dealers get over, or businesses get over 100 owner photos, they get a disproportionate amount of activity on their page, right? So they reward lots of owner photos. And those are easy, right? Pictures of the store, pictures of your equipment, pictures of the waiting room, right? Questions? Good baseball? Good. All right, so if you want to add owner photos, here's how easy it is, right? You go in your, this is the admin section of Google My Business. You click on photos and you upload owner photos. While you're here, I would go into the customer photo and make sure you don't have something odd. Maybe a competitor uploaded something inappropriate. We had one dealership that had a picture of a couple kissing, making out in the dealership. They remove that or whatever it is. So you just want to make sure that the content matches your brand, and is appropriate. Watch for spammy listings, right? So I think this was one in Manchester. Unfortunately, the Google My Business name is super indexed. And unfortunately, you can game that, right? So this business, they're called M60. They're just a little service center. They changed their name to what you see there. And they keyword stuffed their name. And it worked. And they rank really high, right? If I competed with this dealership in Manchester, England, I would just report them. And Google even created a dedicated form for it. It's called the redressal form. And they would be suspended, right? So that's that 2-week suspension from trying to use your name in a spammy way. In major metros, dealerships have to constantly kind of monitor that. Not only because their competitors will create these names, lead generation companies will create parasitic Google My Business listings all around the dealership trying to get clicks. So if it's a Honda dealership, they'll say, new Accords for sale, new Civics for sale. They name the Google My Business that name, and they want to get those clicks, and they want to sell those clicks and those leads to dealers, right? So again, if you're a dealership in a major metro, monitor. If you see duplicates or you see things that aren't yours, but they're relevant to your store, flag those as spammy listings, and I'll give you the links for all those forms to be able to do that. It's also the redressal form. Departments. Departments is really what we're talking about, right? That's just separate Google My Business listings for sales and service, and that just reemphasizes that point. I will say this: when you're zooming in to try to find, like this was maybe a listing they weren't aware of, you need to clear the search query. So you go into Google Maps, and if you're searching for something and you have the map, make sure nothing's in the search query because that influences it. But anyway, you should be able to zoom in and see those listings. Brake repair near me. Now this is maybe too much information, but keep in mind, look at my search bar up here. I'm at google.nl.search. Up top there, you probably can't see it. And if I click here, I stay on google.com/search up there. This is called the local finder. This is not Maps. This is not Google Maps, but it functions the same way. Your Google My Business listings are in 2 places on Google. They're in the local finder, and they're also in Maps. And this is, again, just for the people that are really going to want to pay attention to this. I like to test in both environments, right? So if you want to go to Google Maps, you just go back. I would have had to, right here, instead of clicking here, I click here. And I still get the same search query, but now I'm in Google Maps. I would say for testing purposes, Google Maps will give you more intelligence in terms of Google, the keyword, the reviews keywords I showed you. Google Maps gives you more clues as to why Google ranked one business versus the other. All right, so I want to see if we'll pick this Auto Center Gent. May not be a great example. I'm going to start to zoom in so I can see that. Zoom too much. Uh-oh. That's the problem with these live examples. There it is. So you zoom all the way in. Come on. Keep zooming until it won't let me zoom anymore. Okay? And then I'm going to clear this search query here. Okay? I'm going to get rid of that. You see how it kind of disappeared there? But I can still scroll around. It may not. It's odd that it didn't show me that. But when you remove the search query, it basically shows you all the businesses. I'm not sure why that one. That's not a typo. It's a barber. Anyway, that is my technique for zooming in there. So brake repair near me, kept that on there. I'm not sure why Auto Center Gent is not doing as well, but here's a good example. Here's Auto Center Gent, and here's our GMB SPY extension. Let's just see what categories they're using. That's their primary category. They have no secondary categories, so not very good. And then this just shows the results from the local pack. So of the businesses that scored well for brake repair near me, here's the top 3 businesses, and there's their departments, right? So there's their categories. The categories in Google My Business are a big influencer also. So this tool allows you to spy on to see your competitors' categories. And we'll talk more about that. So winning is about optimizing those departments, and then that's the nesting look. And this, folks, this took me a long time to find this example. There are not many examples out there like this that I can find. So I think that means an opportunity for you that a lot of people are not paying attention, but being able to have these separate listings and then have those linked. As we said, it allows you to have separate hours. There's what that looks like. Very nice, way better. Especially if your service hours are different than your sales hours, right? It's very functional. And we'll give you this, I assume, Paul, we'll give you the deck when we're done if you like. Here's another example and that was in Almere, of departments in here. I don't know if this dealership's in the group, but just giving you an example of how that looks on mobile and on desktop. And the idea there is I get more real estate on Google My Business, but not just real estate, not just a bigger net, but very focused. Like one just on body shop, one just on sales, one just on service. Okay, let's talk about categories, and categories are very important. If you have the wrong categories and you fix it today, tomorrow you'll have better search results. I mean, it's one of those things that doesn't take time with the Google system. So like here's a good example of a dealership with a bunch of categories here. You're able to have 10 categories in total, 1 primary and 9 secondary. Make sure you choose your primary category carefully because that has more weight than the secondary categories. And then also keep in mind for what we call fixed operations or service in body shop, there are 19 different categories. 19 categories, and they're all listed in the back of the book. So for the person who's telling a dealership you only need to have 1 Google My Business, you don't need separate for sales and service. Well, if there's 19 fixed operations categories, and I want to sell cars too, I'm going to run out of categories, right? You cannot optimize a single listing the way you can do multiple ones. And here's a good example, chauffeur service. This dealership chose the wrong category, right? They have the wrong category in there, right? So they need to go in there and make sure someone was choosing the categories and just pick one that wasn't relevant. And if you have competitors that are beating you on Google My Business, make sure you use that GMB SPY extension and know your competitors' categories. And if they consistently beat you, change yours to theirs or take some clues from their categories and then check it in a week and see if your results have changed. See if you're able to outrank because of that. Yes, sir.
I noticed that...
he gets a vote, by the way. All these good questions.
Thanks. I noticed that all your searches were, of course, in English. Because we're in
yes.
main Dutch language, does Google care or do they auto-translate?
I wish I had all those answers. I would say, based on the research I did, because I started doing like a lot of like Dutch searches and even looking, and I may have some examples in here of Dutch keywords showing up. But the more I did that, the more I thought, you don't know Dutch. You may be wrongly making a conclusion based on a phrase that you don't fully understand. So I think Google Translate those. I think sometimes on the review they will say translated. So I think I think for the most part, the examples I had worked in English and in Dutch. We talked about this. Google will nest the department, so that's a great look. All right, adding content to feed Google's knowledge graph. Here we go. And if you haven't logged into your Google My Business admin and you're worried about it, you think it's just one more complication, here's the good news. Google My Business is super easy. No technical skills required. You're really just filling in the blanks, right? You just need a good guidebook, and this presentation is that guidebook, right? So when you first go to a Google My Business page, I like to start at the home page because sometimes Google will show you things that are new. Hey, here's this new opportunity here. But they always show you this report card to grade you on how well you filled out your listing, right? And so take a look at that and make sure that there's, for this dealership, adding the logo would bring them to 100%. Business descriptions, right? So we're just going to go through, at this point, I'm going to be going through information that's in the info. When you go in your Google My Business listing, most of what you'll do will be on that info tab, right? That's where you'll be entering a lot of data. Okay, so the first thing we talk about is the business description. And in the States, we call that the why buy. Why buy from me? Why am I special? Why do you want to choose my dealership? And this is where you want to put that verbiage, right? That's where you want to, because this does appear on the Google My Business listing, right? So if 100% of the time they Google my name, my Google My Business listing pulls up, then I want to make sure I'm filling those fields out, and so they can see information about my store. But it won't index. There's no SEO value to it. It's just a display. Categories we've talked probably enough about. Those are the broad groupings. You can choose 10. And there's we went through that. And again, you'll get this deck so you can see these examples. But there's a good way to look at those competitors. Categories. Okay, let's first talk about sales categories. Can I get a napkin?
Of course, yes.
Thank you. I've just been warm. Someone said we're getting untimely warm weather in Belgium. My son is with me in the back from Ohio, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's really hot in Belgium. Like, no, it's not. It's just unseasonable. Okay, so for the sales side, on the Google My Business listing, your primary category in general should be the OEM category. If you're a Fiat dealer, the primary category should be a Fiat dealer, followed by all these other examples: auto broker, used car dealer. If you are a rural dealer, if you say, hey George, there's not another Fiat dealer for 2 hours in any direction, then don't waste your primary category on Fiat dealer. Don't waste it. Instead, choose something more competitive like used car dealer or auto broker or something, right? You want to try to pick a better category, because if there's not another dealership in 2 hours, remember our proximity rule says you're going to win that anyway, right? So we want to, if you're in a big major metro and there's Fiat dealers, in every direction, then yes, that should be your primary category. Thank you.
Hey, George.
Yes, sir.
In 2 hours, actually, you are or in France or at the sea.
Oh, like that example. On the drive here, I asked Paul, what dynamics do I need to be ready for? What's the difference? We didn't talk about that.
No, but in this example,
Steeds meer collega's gebruiken Used Car Controller. Taxeren, calculeren, publiceren of auto's verhandelen met je persoonlijke handelsplatform? Met 1 abonnement geeft Used Car Controller je controle over alle kritische gebruikte autoprocessen. Zo maakt Used Car Controller je tot sterkste in je vak. Vindio is de merkonafhankelijke automotive partner. Vindio is er voor uw klanten en u. Zo kunt u zorgeloos ondernemen en uw rendement verbeteren. Uw online leads opvolgen binnen 30 seconden? Dat kan met Coldrip. Vraag direct een demo aan.
this isn't Stellantis, right? They have multiple brands in one location, like Fiat, Abarth, Jeep, Dodge. Do they need 5 business listings for the sales side, Fiat, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, etc., and then 5 Google My Business listings also for parts, also, so they are in one location ending up with 15 Google My Business listing, or do they have to?
Yeah, so I it's a great question. I would, if it's a Stellantis, for example, Fiat, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, whatever it is, those should be one sales listing, one service listing, and so on.
What's then the primary category? Is that
I think it's like for a Stellantis dealer, I find that they really vary. Like one Stellantis dealer does really well in the States on Jeep, Cherokee, and Wrangler. Another dealer does really well on Ram, heavy duty and light duty, right? And so I think it's which make you really put that biggest focus on. Yeah. I think creating individual Google My Businesses for every different OEM make, you would be too diluted. You would have 20 Google My Businesses, and all of them would have 2 reviews, and you wouldn't show up really for anything. You wouldn't rank high for anything. I think it's over dilution.
Sorry, so I have a question.
Yes.
What would you name the business then? Because you have the name of your dealership, but then you would have 5 brands connected to that dealership.
Yes. So I think you name the dealership with those brands.
Yeah, but we have in Belgium 30 plus dealerships, and they all have the same name. They just have different locations and then different brands. So how do you do that?
So they're not named by location? I mean, literally, they just have the same name?
Well, they have the same name as a dealer, and then they would have, they're named according to location and then according to a brand.
That's what I would do. I would do the location. Even, technically, Google says, hey, this should be your business name, your legal business name. But, I wouldn't put LLC and, all the spawn, just different, I would just say, what is your doing business brand? What do you call yourself? So you don't put all your corporate kind of indicators there. And I think you would just say, Amsterdam, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, or your brand. What's the name of the store?
Famosol.
Okay, so Famosol, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Alpha, dash, city name, dash. Yeah.
So you would just add all the brands next to.
Yes.
Of that location, right?
In that location, yeah, because I think that's legitimate, right? You sell those brands, you're not spamming. Spamming is when you get into like on fixed operations, putting brake repair or all these different pieces, or putting like Accord, Civic, Odyssey, stuffing it. If you're just saying, here's my brand name, here's our makes, and then here's our community, that's reasonable. In the States, you may have someone who has Jake Sweeney Chevrolet Body Shop. We have them say Jake Sweeney Chevrolet Body Shop / Collision Center. That's not really technically their name, but collision is something people search for a lot. So we like getting that word in there. So we're kind of riding the rails of, it's not, no one's going to flag us for that. All right. So for fixed operations, and there's examples in the book for service, parts, body shop, which one, but in general, your first category, your primary category should be the primary category for that location. So if it's service, that'd be auto repair. If it's parts, auto parts. If it's body shop, tent repair. And once you add categories, and again, this is for people that are getting into the admin section of Google My Business. Once you add categories, Google takes your website link, and they go to your website, and they scrape that page, and they look for keywords that match your categories. And when they find keywords that match their categories, they create this kind of look, right, in your admin section of your GMB. As a reminder, for anybody who's doing this on a regular basis, anything in orange, when you go into this page in info, anything in orange is Google's suggestions to the business. If you don't respond in 2 weeks, they make that permanent, right? So you want to make sure you go through and curate or edit Google's suggestions, right? So you just click the little pencil here, and you'll go through, and these are keywords literally pulled off of this dealer's service page. And so sometimes there might be a typo, or sometimes it might be an abbreviation. So you can go through and complete those, and then say, okay. And those won't appear in your Google My Business, but again, this is us educating Google's knowledge graph, right? Google came out and said, based on auto repair shop, we think you're also in the business of glass repair, engine repair, airbags, belts and hoses. Do you agree? Yes, we do belts and we do air conditioning, we do brakes, right? So we're giving Google additional information in terms of relevance. What business are we in? Don't just click here, right? If you click accept all changes, all those get approved, right? Instead, and it's a little bit cryptic. It took me a while you got to click this little view updates, and then you go here, and then you're able to these are ones that are already selected. You're able to add those, or you're able to, I don't have a screenshot of it, they'll show you ones you can delete or ones you can edit. And this is not an everyday thing. These are sort of one-time, quarterly kind of changes. But, I think from a Google My Business perspective, I would at least be in there once a week looking for any kind of alerts, anything in orange that they may have found, right? Okay. Good pace? Going too fast? Good? All right. Attributes. So this is even sometimes confusing for me. Like, attributes, what's the difference between an attribute and a service or a category? Just different little elements that Google has, right? So they have these things called attributes, and these are more about like, handicap accessible, sanitized, no touch delivery, whatever those is, right? And so these will also be suggested by Google. So you'll want to go in there and look at those different attributes and either confirm or deny those. Again, don't click here and edit those one at a time and periodically check those. And there's what that looks like, right? So once you click there, you can go through and you can add those or not. All right, attributes. Just another thing, right? Categories, services, attributes. Phone numbers. So this was a somewhat recent, like 3 years ago or so, Google allowed you to offer multiple phone numbers. And why did they do that? Because a lot of challenges were being created with call tracking systems, right? So a call tracking number may have a toll-free or may have a local number, and people would put that in for their local number, and then that would cause challenges where Google may suggest and say, hey, that's not your number. Your number is this. Because is anybody familiar with something called NAP? Name, address, phone? Okay, that's an SEO thing, right? So this is not today as big of a deal it was 5 or 10 years ago, but it still matters. Google likes to have your business name, your name, address, phone, NAP. They want your NAP to be consistent across the web. When it's not, Google gets confused and they lose confidence about that citation, right? So, and there's services you probably heard of, Yext or Moz.com or some of those, right? If you go to Moz.com, they have a free checker where you can check your citation and see if you're consistent across the web or not. I don't have a slide on that. So yes, Moz.com, and then just look for local business checker. And then once you see those inconsistencies, you can go change those. But the phone number caused a problem, and so Google added the additional one to allow you to put your call tracking number in for the primary, and then the additional, you put your local business in the additional phone number, and that solved that NAP problem, right? That solved that consistency problem because Google still had the same number that was on Bing, that was on Facebook, that was on Yelp, whatever it is, right? That consistency. Messaging. We talked about this in the drive here. So there's a function in Google My Business that allows you to message with customers. You can click on messaging right there, and you can message individually. And you just put a phone number in there and say, I want to message. This is the phone number I want to SMS from your Google My Business listing. I would try not to take this path. Instead, at least in the States, and I assume, and we may be able to get an answer. I know we've got some folks that know some folks at Podium with their chat, but these chat providers allow integration into Google My Business. Paul, who's the big dominant chat provider in Europe, or does the group know?
It's local, can be Web 1.1, Rango, or different options, but nobody's integrated with Google My Business yet.
Okay. So that may be an opportunity. Maybe one of the bigger players steps up and gets that integration. The truth is, you're not going to get a lot of messages through Google My Business. It would require someone to be on their phone, and instead of just clicking to your website link to decide to message you. It doesn't happen very often, but still, if you use a chat provider, you could have that just automatically be in your normal chat console, right? And that's the same approach I think you want to take with Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or your website or Google My Business. Having a centralized chat dashboard where my agents don't have to log into, you got to log into Google for that message, and you got to log into Facebook for Messenger, and you got to log into this one for my website, right? To be able to have that be an integrated solution where all of them use the same interface. All right. UTM tracking. Anybody know what UTM tracking is? Anybody use UTM tracking on their Google My Business listing? All right. It's a book.
Thank you. Can I ask a question?
Yes, you sure can. And that truly deserves it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How different is Google, also for the car companies, to check it by phone, by tablet, and by desktop? Is there a lot of difference in it, or is it all the same?
Should not be, but there are some. So messaging, what I just showed you, that was mobile only, and now is desktop too. Inventory listings, which as far as I know are not available in Europe yet. I'll show you some screenshots. Paul and I were working on some ideas. Maybe we can figure out how to get that offered to dealers in Europe as well. That used to be only on mobile, the inventory, and now that's on desktop also. Right? Inventory listings on the Google My Business listing. Okay, so we said before that your Google listing has a website link, and probably all of you have that website link connected to your website, of course. But if you do this thing called UTM tagging, if you use Google Analytics, you can track those clicks separately. Anybody using Google Analytics for their dealerships on a regular basis to track their traffic? Right, good for you. UTM tagging, it sounds like a complicated word. I don't even know what it stands for. It is really it's just a suffix. It's something appended onto a URL to allow you to track someone on your site. Not really track who they are, but to be able to track behavior, right? So if I know you probably don't do a lot of email campaigns or text campaigns, but if you did an email campaign, or if you did an email to a bunch of former customers, and you had a call to action in there, and they were to click on that link, and that was a campaign maybe you paid for, something you really want to measure, if you don't tag that, if you don't UTM tag that link, you'll never be able to see those results. Because all that traffic comes into Google Analytics as untagged direct traffic, like invisible. Google has no idea where it came from. If I text my wife your dealership, the website, and she clicks on it, that's not trackable. Google has no idea where that click came from, right? If it didn't come from another site, they have no idea, right? So UTM tagging, don't just apply this to your Google My Business. If you're doing any kind of SMS campaigns or email campaigns, or even your Facebook campaigns, make sure your agency, ask your agency, say, hey, are you UTM tagging all my traffic, all my campaigns? And if they're not, you can show them really the process for doing that. But that will allow you then to ask for Google Analytics reports to see how campaigns perform, right? When we do Facebook campaigns, we don't do them, but when our dealers do Facebook campaigns and we help them measure those, we're running every month maybe 8 different campaigns, A/B testing, all those different things. You have to tag those campaigns in order to track those results. Anyway, there's the structure for the UTM tag for your website, but I'll show you here in a second. If you go to Generations Digital, our website, and click on resources, there's a free guide you can download, and it will show you, your agency step by step how to UTM tag, what it means. It sounds complicated, it's really simple. Google Posts. Anyone doing Google Posts on a regular basis? I saw a fair amount of posts out there, right? So Google Posts are free display ads that appear in your Google My Business listing. They used to be really high up above the fold. Now they're down a bit, but they're still important. I would only do 2 at a time. Only 2 will show in the carousel. And when people have tagged all these different posts, and someone's doing 10 posts that require me to click here to advance to the next post, other than the first 2, none of them will ever get clicks, right? So why bother? Create 2 posts at a time, and then when those cycle out, put 2 more posts in there. The ads stay on for a period of time. You can UTM tag those links. That's great. Google Posts. Keywords in Google Posts have been shown to be indexed in search. Not as much as reviews, but they do get indexed as well. So when you're writing the body for your Google Post, make sure you include those keywords. We don't want it to sound spammy and keyword stuffing, natural language, but just make sure you include those keywords. Google Products. Google Products is really similar to Posts, except that it's evergreen. They stay on until you remove those. And what we do with the products listings is if you're selling new cars, every new make model that you sell, you create a product page for that. And then if you offered service, different categories of service, you could create service posts as well. You can UTM tag all those links so you'd be able to see, hey, last month we had 100 people click on our website link, and we had 10 people click on a Google post, and we had a couple people click on a product listing. This was also very, very hard to find. I only found one, and I looked at dozens and dozens in several countries, and could not find anybody using products. And this dealership only had one model listed out there. Yes, sir.
How would you use this for used cars or inventory that changes quite frequently?
Yeah.
So,
I think I would do a Google product and just say, used car, some sort of phrase to just categorically say, we are the dominant local player in terms of used cars. We make sure we have low mileage, very high condition. We spend a lot of money reconditioning our used cars. Maybe we have certified. I think I would just, and then when they click on that, they deep link to your used car, search page.
Is there, I don't know if you know this, but is there an API that you can automatically connect your inventory? So if inventory gets sold and
yes.
isn't on your website anymore, it's gone from the products page as well?
Yes, there is an API. I only know one company that does it. There's a company in the States called Dealer Teamwork. They have these new car like MPOP landing pages, and they can do that programming, but it'd just be a little bit of work to do. But honestly, it should be you don't want to put each unit. You want it to be more broad, more evergreen for, And again, you're not going to get tons of clicks on this. Is any one thing that I show you going to start change your business overnight? No, right? It's all these things collectively, and just being able to over time, watch this ranking and outrank your competitor who's not paying attention, who may be ranking high. Dumb luck, had no idea that they were ranking high, right? Okay, responding to customers. As we talked all about, embracing online reviews. This is not a presentation on reputation management. It's more about saying, if you don't have a solid process in the dealership to drive reviews, then you will just get average results or maybe below average results, right? So in addition to using like a Podium or a reputation management company, we want to get very good at one-on-one engagement with people we know will give us a 5-star rating, right? If I'm sitting across from you and you're so happy with your new car and your wife and your kids, we got you out of here in an hour, and you're just having the best day, and we built a good relationship. I say, hey, I'm going to go grab some final paperwork. Do you mind? I have your cell phone still. I'm going to text you a link to my Google My Business page. If you wouldn't mind leaving me a 5-star review, and if you could mention my name in it, that makes me look good for my boss. You're like, George, no problem, man. Look, I'll do it while you're, right? And so we'll show you how to create a link that will not only take them to your Google My Business page, but automatically pops the reviews up in front. So literally it's like, click, right? Dealers that do that will get 4 to 5 times the normal results and almost all 5-star reviews, right? Consumers have no idea that a 4-star review is horribly worse than a 5-star review for a dealer, right? Takes your rating down. You have to go get 10 more 5-star reviews for every 4-star review just to keep your average where it is, or somewhere around that math, right? So we gotta, it really matters. Yes, sir. Yeah. Does Google index the replies to our keywords or just the reviews? Just the reviews. I wish. Otherwise, life would be much easier. We're so glad you're so happy with your. I say here, respond to all negative reviews. Absolutely, respond to all negative reviews, and some of the positive reviews. I think sometimes it gets exhaustive to just read, oh, thank you for your review. Thank you for your, So if you had a positive review and they call someone out by name, we really love Paul. He took care of us. And we reply back and say, oh my gosh, Paul's one of our most valued employees. Thank you. Right? It's personal. They made it personal. We make it personal back. Someone reading it says, oh, what a great personality this dealership has. Sorry.
I forgot my question.
You'll get it.
No. Yeah. I forgot it.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
And again, here's Google indexing keywords, right? We're seeing those keywords in our reviews. Take disagreements offline. Don't get into an online battle. Hey, I don't even see your name in our CRM. Are you sure you're a customer? What just take it offline, right? When you respond to a negative review, you're not responding to the person who left the negative review. You're responding to everybody else who reads that, right? You want them to think that the person leaving the review was just unreasonable. They give you this nasty review. Oh my gosh, we are so sorry. We'll make it right. Here's my number. Contact me. So the person reading the review says, maybe this person is just a chronic complainer. The dealership seemed to really Respond nicely, right? So if you don't respond to a negative review, what does that mean?
You don't care.
It's the truth, right? It's the truth. The consumer reads it and says, negative. Oh, they're terrible. God. It's fact because no one debated it. Yeah, no one debated it. Did you remember?
Yeah, I remembered. That's what I do as well, always. I don't really care about the 5-star reviews. When I see like 80 reviews, you can like select if you want to read 2-star reviews, 3-star reviews, you know, and I notice a lot of friends do it as well. They'll just say, okay, let me look at the bad reviews. Like, what are they saying?
Yes.
Or like, let me look what's 3 stars, 5 stars, it's all great. Yeah, I don't even read those, but what are the... So, because you said, 4-star is 10 times worse than 5-star reviews, but wouldn't...
Well, I just say that because it's an average thing, right? If I only have 2 reviews, 4 and a 5, now I'm a 4.5. I mean, 4-star reviews take your average down. If I'm a 4.8 dealer or a 4.7 dealer, and I get a 4-star review, that hurts. I gotta go get a bunch of 5s to make up for that, right? I got 3 5s, 4 5s to make up for that 4. And the consumer may have thought they're doing you a good job. They're helping you out. 4's pretty good, isn't it? Not when you're competing in a world where the best dealers are 4.6 and above. We sometimes see 4.9, 4.8. That's hard to do. Yes, sir. Somebody? All right. Any other questions back there? Going too fast? All making sense?
What's the obsession with the 5-star rating? Because in Belgium, if you're happy, you give a 6, a 7, 8, and 9 is exceptional, but we never give 10s.
Yeah. So the reason a 5-star review is so much more important is because Google's going to sort those rankings in general by the number of reviews and the star rating.
But that's the American way of thinking of star rating, like on eBay and all the other
Right.
ones. Why don't they transfer it a little bit to Europe? Because to get 10 out of 10 in Belgium,
Right.
it's not in our system, it's not in our thinking, in our way of behaving.
Yeah, I mean, for me, selfishly, I just want to always win Google search. I want to get more than my fair share of organic search traffic. I want my competitor to always be below me. I want my competitor out of the local pack, as far down as I can push them. And so it's just me being selfish that I want to get all the clicks.
Yeah, but it's with the 5-star rating.
Right.
I mean, like, I would be happy with an 8. If you have your grades in school and you're above 5 to 10, then you passed. That's good in Belgium.
Yeah.
If you have a 10, that's outstanding.
Right.
But it's almost impossible.
And you may be a really good dealer, but you're 3.5 and they're just not seeing you. And so I'm not saying that you're a bad dealer. Your competitor will get more clicks than you because they're obsessing with 5-star ratings.
Oh.
But if the average thing in Belgium is that they're giving 4 stars and everybody's on 4 stars, you can win that game again with 4 stars.
True, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if the playing field is there, and that may be the difference we saw. I mean, I think the highest I saw was 4.6 stars, maybe 4.7 stars. There's a 4.7 star. So it's all right. Take disagreements offline. We talked about that. Influence the outcome. So this is that point we were talking about, that personal ask, that one-on-one ask, right? Asking for that review will influence what you're doing there, okay? People like to help people, right? I'm going to text you a quick link and get that done. Here's where you find that link. So if you go in your Google My Business, you click on Home, come down to where it says Request Reviews, and just copy that, right? So very few people are using this. And then you could put that into Bitly and make that look better, look more attractive, and you text that review to someone, and if they're logged into their Google account, it pops up the star rating, and they're one click away from leaving a review. You could also put it in the form of a QR code, right? You could have a QR code for that link and have it on a business card or on a mirror hang tag. With the pandemic, consumers are much more willing to use QR codes. You can include photos. If you sent a photo of someone taking possession of their car, you could have that same conversation. Hey, here's a picture of you in your new van. By the way, here's a quick link to our Google My Business listing. If you wouldn't mind, mentioning my dealership, and if they're a good buddy of mine, I would say, can you include the word best? Because I know that has such a big impact. Or could you include the year, make, model that you bought? Or if you came in for service, could you include the year, make, model that you got service and what you get done? Because a review that said, we just got new tires from our Jeep Wrangler, for our 2017 Jeep Wrangler, and it runs like new. These guys are the best. That's a huge review. All those keywords will be indexed, and you will win on that review for non-branded category search, right? So again, those are for some people, they may say, George, I don't feel comfortable with that. But again, for those dealers, for those customers that are your best customer, you may ask for a review, and they're like, I don't know what to say. What do you want to say? Well, I don't know. Just be honest. What'd you buy? What service did you get? If you loved us, say that you loved us. Tell us we're the best. And, getting salespeople and other people at the dealership involved in that, right? So it's not just one person asking for it. It's everybody at the store asking for those reviews. And what the salespeople don't realize is that when they get their name included in the review, suddenly they're not waiting for their turn. They're not waiting for a customer to call them or someone to be in the market. They have people coming in asking for them. I don't know who Karen is. Karen in the UK, she's very good. I mean, it wasn't hard to find me. Almost every review said how much they loved Karen. She just took such great care of us. Do you think people come in that store and ask for Karen? They don't know who she is? Yeah, they see that. I do that. I never want to be in the rotation when I go to a dealership. I want to go in and ask for someone who I read did a great job, or, so. Questions and answers. This was introduced 5 years ago. Most people are not paying attention to this. We'll go quickly over this. Anybody can ask and anybody can answer. So if you're not monitoring this, you got to do it right away, because you may find some really bad things in there, like this. What is that dirty racist? Well, I won't even read the rest. Someone just put a really horrible thing in there, put a review in there with inflammatory language to the store, and no one's looking at it, right? And so just go in there and look at it. If it's not a question, like if it were this would be an easy one. Click on these 3 dots, flag it as inappropriate. It's gone in a day or two, right? So anything that's not a question or anything that's timed out, they're asking, are you guys open Christmas Day 2017? Oh, click the 3 dots, no longer relevant. So you can clean up your questions and answers, but if they're legitimate questions, then answer those. Before you answer them, make sure you log into the admin of your Google My Business so that it has this nice little logo, and it will have your business with owner, it'll probably some translation in Dutch, but this will be an automatic thing that Google will do if you're logged into your GMB, and then you respond to it, and it just makes it look a whole lot better, right? And if someone else responded to it, you definitely respond to it, and then get people to like your answer, and their answer gets pushed down. If you get 3 people to like the question and like the answer, then it shows up on your Google My Business page instead of just this. Now my question's there, right? So again, we coach dealers to turn this into a frequently asked questions section. Do you sell used vehicles? Oh yes, we do sell. We certify and inspect, recondition all of our vehicles. You put a nice why buy question and answer in there, and it's on your homepage. Inventory listings, we won't talk a ton about. I'll just show you. This is certainly coming for the other markets, being able to have your listings in Google My Business. I believe this is more part of Google wanting, just like Facebook, wanting to bring content onto their platform to avoid all the iOS 14 challenges and the cookie challenges, right? You're going to see more of that. The platform's wanting to get the inventory on their site and have the user experience be on their site. So that's I think, a precursor to that, and building an ad model around that for individual make models, new and used. That's definitely coming. All right, our last section here, Insights. This is the reporting section. And again, you just go into your back end of Google My Business and click on Insights, and you'll get your reporting section. This donut may look pretty boring, but this donut will show you your degree of success with building your non-branded category search, right? So the green, this is the number of people who search for your dealership by full name. In gold, this is people who search for your franchise brand, Fiat dealer near me. This is dealerships that did not mention your brand or any of the makes you sell. They just said brake repair near me, used car dealer near me, right? And so as I've said, winning on Google My Business is increasing your share of the blue, of the discovery search. And especially for fixed operations, if you have a service GMB, it should be almost all blue. Here's a service GMB for a Mercedes dealer that's just built wrong, right? It needs repair. They have the wrong categories in there. This thinks it's a sales listing, not a service listing. So by fixing that, you can get your blue section for those non-category listings. And when you're in this Insight Reports, it'll also show you the searches, right? So I can go through here and I can look at the actual searches that went through, right? So you'll be able to prove, is George right or wrong? I don't know. I'm trying to build my non-branded category search. What's my number one, right? If it's Fiat 500 and if it's a service listing, we want that top category to be brake repair, oil change, right? We want to win for all those service non-branded listings. Where the clicks came from, I don't think this is a really helpful report. I show it to you because it's in the Insights report, but it's not really actionable. This is the actions that they took from your page. Did they click on your website? Did they request directions, or did they call you? So again, this reporting can help you see, am I moving the needle? Am I growing my new service? Google My Business page I grew? Am I getting non-branded, fixed ops searches for that page? This is nice also, you can get direction requests. This can be helpful when you're building your paid search or your paid social campaigns. You're trying to decide your geolocation. Go in here and you can get a list of all the zip codes or all the regions that people search for directions. What a great kind of starting point for your geolocation, right? For your paid campaign. So no one's paying attention to that. I think it's a great report. Action items. Claim your listings. Check your user access. Feed content. That's all we've talked about is feeding content. Make sure that it's all laid out right. Look at your questions and answers. Clean that section up. Respond to reviews. Monitor your insights. There's some links to support if you're having problems with your GMB page. The redressal one we talked about, the UTM tagging. And that's a fire hose presentation. We say fire hose in the United States, just too much information, hopefully in a short period of time. I hope not. Questions? Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have a dealership of Jaguar Land Rover, and we have one Google My Business. And when you search for Land Rover and Shrek by name, then you go to Google My Business and you click further to the website. You get only the Jaguar website, not the Land Rover website.
That's right. Yeah, they're two different ones.
What do I have to do? Because there's some conflicts.
I would say you could create a splash page. That would be the wrong thing because you really want to have relevant, that website link, you want it to link to a page that has content that matches. I would probably create separate ones for that on that occasion for Jaguar and Land Rover.
You Google My Business.
Yeah, I would. I think JLRs are a different animal because
we
of
have
that.
two websites, official websites,
Yes.
Jaguar, Land Rover. We have one Google My Business account website.
It should be two.
I would do too. Yes. How many reviews do you have on that page?
I don't know for sure.
If it's if you have a lot of reviews, you want to be careful and figure out who's going to get those reviews. Because when you create an additional listing, you're going to take your existing one and convert it to Jaguar, and then you create a new Land Rover. Just be thoughtful and say, I want to make sure my best brand,
Land Rover.
Yeah, so Land Rover keeps those reviews, create an additional one for Jaguar, and then start building reviews because the Jaguar won't show up. I guess you could keep the Jaguar in there for a while you built the other listing, but that's gonna conflict. By the way, on categories, I may not have said this, don't overlap categories. Your service page should have none of the same categories as your sales page. That makes it confusing for Google to have the knowledge graph and know what each location does, right? So delineate and separate those categories. But that's what I would do. Yes, sir.
Is there a future for portal sites like we had at the time? But Google doesn't show them because they see them as competition, more or less.
No, Google ranks portal sites. I am very bullish on portal sites. I think to market used cars, they're the most cost-effective way to market a used car. Cost per shopper, cost per VDP, cost per lead, paid search. The only thing that gets close to that is paid Facebook. But most other methods, Google search is incredibly inefficient on used cars. But if you go, at least in the States, if you search for any new or used make model in Google search, page one is dominated. Cars.com, Carfax, Edmunds, Auto Trader. That's why it's so hard to compete with them because when you click on that, they don't have one white Wrangler. They have a dozen Wranglers in different colors, so the consumer is more satisfied, right? So if you try to do that with paid search, they see one car, they don't like it. You just spent $6 a click, Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you want to now implement the knowledge we gained today. So most of us might have one Google GMB, right? So would you then, because we have more than 100 reviews, 4.6, would you then change that to your main?
Yes, sales.
Okay, to sales, and then make new listings for service.
Correct.
And make those departments. Right?
Yes. Yep. And the departments, they're already a department, but they'll be nested if they have the same address. And once you get those 20 reviews and 20 owner photos. Who else do I owe books to that I didn't pay up on? You asked some questions. Thank you. Who else did I miss? Was that there? Oh, yes. So this is Google My Business. This is digital marketing for car dealers for dummies. So who needs this the most? Paul can decide. I wish I had brought more, but...
No, you lost them with dummies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm done.
So thank you, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dank u wel voor het luisteren naar de DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries met de missie om de online automotive beter te maken. Vond u deze podcast interessant? Abonneer dan meteen via Spotify, Soundcloud of iTunes en deel deze podcast via LinkedIn met uw netwerk. De DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door de volgende partners: Marktplaats, Coldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Vindio, Used Car Controller en tweedehands.be.